Right, let's talk about some actual rugby. Put all the disciplinary stuff behind and get excited about Friday night at Twickenham. 2 weeks to the day till New Zealand open the World Cup against the host France and they take on their old rivals South Africa, the biggest rivalry in rugby. We saw the South Africa team announced on Monday and thought, well, that's pretty spicy. Hoping that New Zealand would follow suit, fully expecting New Zealand to follow suit, and they have done. We are in for an absolute cracker. Two of the most decorated, well, the two most decorated teams in Rugby World Cup history, trying to just get everything right ahead of the Rugby World Cup. And this is going to be awesome. It says a lot as well that Twickenham has taken to this game. I mean, there's a lot of expats living in London and in the UK generally from South Africa and New Zealand, and they'll be in fine voice cheering their boys on. But it feels like the rugby public in the UK are taken by this fixture as well. I definitely am. And that's evidenced by the fact that the following day at Twickenham, it's only going to be half full for England in their farewell match before they go off to the World Cup against Fiji. I'm Tim, this is Egg Chasers. Please leave your comments and let's get stuck into the All Black team that has just been announced. And there it is. It looks pretty good to me. Not far off fully loaded, is it? The same question I'll ask you if you're a New Zealander that I asked when South Africa's team was announced. How close is that to fully loaded? It feels a little bit like South Africa are trying a couple of combinations out in the backs. New Zealand, meanwhile, are just trying out a couple of combinations in the forwards, which makes it particularly interesting. Also, really quite unusual. Makes sense against the Springboks. New Zealand opting for a 6-2 split and picking all of their available locks. We're praying to the injury gods on this one. Because this is going to be full-blooded. Eben Etzebeth said the other day, or yesterday even, he said, this is not a friendly. There is nothing friendly about South Africa versus New Zealand. You've got to love it. So yeah, I'm really excited to see Jacobson, sorry. And I think that is like the Kanan Moody selection for South Africa, but for New Zealand. The one player who's been tearing it up looks really exciting, and you're intrigued to see how they go. Unlikely to be a starter, but has the opportunity and, hey, could become a starter. That front five for New Zealand looks really, really good. It's going to need to be against South Africa. Like I say, the back row combination, we've got Whitelock and Barrett now. Retallick, obviously, the one lock not involved. I said all the available locks. Retallick not available currently. Other than that, pretty understandable and logical selection. Certainly behind the scrum, it looks that way. Mark Talea, does that mean he's got the nod as the second winger for New Zealand? That was one of the areas where there were a few options and they could go in different directions depending on how Ian Foster wants to play. So when you actually sort of put that up against the Springbok team that was announced the other day, here's a thought for you. What would you do if you had all of these players, all 46 players, and you had to put them into one 23-man squad? And while the reason I like doing this is it gives you a bit of an idea of where the balance of power lies. You can see the relative strengths and weaknesses of different teams, and you can see kind of start to pick out what the story of the game may well be. So I've done that, and I'd love to know what you think about this. That is my combined team for South Africa and New Zealand. And I think just when you look at the colours of the jerseys, it's pretty noticeable. It's 50-50 in the pack. And one I want to draw your attention to is Tyrell Lomax. I've got him nudged just ahead of Frans Malherbe, which I wouldn't have predicted doing. Although I did say, I take it back. Go look at the videos. I said a couple of months back, New Zealand's front row are legit, and by the end of the World Cup, I thought that their stock may have risen, so they are above these guys. I wasn't expecting to be thinking Tyrell Lomax's stock is above Frans Malherbe now. Frans Malherbe, incredible scrummager. Tyrell Lomax has impressed me so much. So he gets the nod in the front row. And it's 50-50. Scott Barrett, that's recognition of the form he's shown. I think they are the two form locks in World Rugby right now. On the back row, we saw Peter Steph back to his rampaging best, albeit against a poor Wales team. We're going to get a real measure of how close to his very best Peter Steph is against New Zealand. Sia Khaleesi had a great first half, but he's just coming back to fitness. Sam Kane's been in great form, so he gets the nod in the back row with Ardie Savea at number 8. For me, an automatic selection. But that's 4 and 4, the way the pack splits. Maybe New Zealand with a bit more of the grunt up front, and New Zealand with a bit more of the mobility in the back 5 of the scrum. So really interesting matchup there. And New Zealand have come on leaps and bounds in the last year up front, and that's quite often, well, that is when the South Africa win their matches. The backs just dictate by how much. It's that old rugby cliche. The forwards decide who wins. The backs decide by how much. Behind the scrum, all New Zealand, except for Kurtley Rentzer. Albeit we have to remember there are players unavailable, especially for South Africa. Damian Dialande would be in with a shout. Andre Pollard would be in with a shout if fit. And Cheslin Colby, obviously. Villy LaRue would be a consideration if he were fit. But I think that's fairly regulation. It's going to be fascinating to see how the centre pairings go against each other. Barrett and Ioane have really come into some form as a combination, and we've got a new untested combination for South Africa, so we'll see. So yeah, on the face of it, when you look at the 15s, you go, New Zealand could get parity up front and then win behind the scrum. However, the other part of the story here, I'm going to have to move back for this bit, is the bench. Both teams have opted for a 6-2 split, so I've done it as a 6-2 split as well. And I've picked 7 out of the 8 being South Africans. And that is what I think the story of this game could well be. If South Africa can be in touch on 50, 60 minutes, then I think they've got the firepower to the bomb squad to come off and win this game, which they have struggled to do against New Zealand when the matchups come. I think New Zealand have got more firepower. I mean, that South Africa backline is rapid, absolutely rapid. Box office, just gas all over the place, jet fuel. But I think New Zealand have got more quality in their backline. The bench, it's a 23-man game these days. It's a 33-man squad. It's a 23-man game. The starting 15, and South Africa have shown that more than any team, is absolutely massive. And I just really like the options they've got off the bench. A lot of power coming off the bench up front. So that the pack that are there, no, they can just go and blow out. I also think what you've actually got on the bench is experience versus youth. South Africa have got a lot of guys here that have been there, done it, been around the block a few times, and have got the scars to prove it. Got the World Cup medals to prove it as well in quite a few cases. Whereas New Zealand, on their bench, you've got guys like Tamaiti Williams, Cam Roigard. It's like New Zealand's bench is the new breed. And one thing New Zealand always do brilliantly well is their progression planning, their, what's the word? Yeah, just passing the baton on to the next player. And they've got a great age profile in their squad. Experienced guys coming into their prime, and a young guy backing them up. And I think you've got a lot of those young guys on the New Zealand bench who I expect to be here in the future. This is going to be awesome. I cannot wait. And I made the joke the other day, but I guess I stand by it. I'm glad that Twickenham's going to have 2 teams that come and play rugby in the right way. And I, for one, cannot wait to see it. Enjoy the game. I'll be here with my thoughts immediately after the game and building up to and during the entire World Cup. I'm going to be heading out to France in that ahead of that first week of competition, and I can't wait to bring you loads of great content here on the channel. So if you appreciate it, hit that little like button. It helps let people know that I exist. It's just me here chatting about rugby, and hopefully I've earned your subscription as well. Enjoy the game. I'll see you on the next video.